this week's episode of Level Up Cyber. My name is Tony Bryan, and I am your host and Executive Director of CyberUp. Today we're riding solo. Just came off of a really great discussion over the past week with a group of security leaders around the idea of what is skills-based hiring. And man, did we have some fun. We had a great conversation, some really good questions. Just some really engaging discussion around what is this idea and what is skills-based hiring and what does it actually mean to all of us. So I thought it was worthy and worthwhile of taking the next 30 minutes and committing an episode of the show this week to really set the stage around skills-based hiring, setting some definitions, and also just setting some expectations. So this is going to be a concept and I think a word you're going to hear coming from us pretty often and regularly. And moving forward in the future, because I really think it's an important topic that I think we need to get into a little bit more. And an important topic we really need to start working with our corporate partners and organizations who are hiring individuals to take a little bit deeper dive into all things that are skills-based hiring. So over the next 30 minutes, just to kind of set the stage right quick, we're going to actually define what is skills-based hiring. What does that mean to you, right? We're going to jump into the types of skills. I know we've all seen a lot of data around soft skills and hard skills, but we'll dive a little bit into that. We'll talk a little bit about skills paths. And then we'll make up a term here called skill boosters. This idea of what are ways that individuals can highlight their skills and maybe show those off to others. And really show ways in which they can bring this to your organization, bring this to the job every single day. We'll call them the flair of kind of skill building. Why it's important, why it's really important now, right? Because I really do think it's a topic that is going to continue to evolve and grow and just get even bigger and harder for us to solve if we're not looking at it today. And then we'll dive into some specifics. We're going to go really high level this time around how to actually create and build a skills-based hiring program for your organizations. We'll probably over the next several months start to bring in individuals and corporations to set and show examples of just how they are building skills-based programs, show how successful their programs are going to be, and really highlight the ways for others to kind of follow suit, right? It is an important part. So let's just get into it, right? Why not? And I encourage you, if you have questions along the way, you want to add parts into this, please do, right? I definitely encourage this to be an interactive thing, very much so like the presentation I gave last week. And I do want to just kind of preface this, that I'm going to share some data around here, and it's not intended to come off as negative. It's not intended to be a dig or a bash for anybody, but these are all legit headlines and the realities that I think we're facing. So it is important, I think, to sometimes address the truth, and the data that's out there, and then we make decisions off of what that truth may be, and then we go from there and make, and I think what we all hope to see is make better educated decisions that lead to greater hiring and better protected networks that minimize the risks and things we have from all the bad actors that are out there. So with that, let's dive in. First and foremost, we need to define what is skills-based hiring, right? There's a lot of different ideas and there's a lot of ways to get skills, but at the end of the day, what is skills-based hiring? So I went to the internet, I found a definition. I don't want to give you my definition. I wanted to give you the Webster by the book definition that's out there. So I'm going to read it just to make sure that we're on track. So skills-based hiring is a recruitment practice that involves hiring applicants based on their quantifiable skills rather than assessing them purely based on their resumes or degrees, right? So that's simply stating and kind of paraphrasing that. This isn't degree hiring. This is organizations that have committed to say degrees are important, right? But they're not necessary for all the roles we're going to hire. We're going to create a pathway or ways and opportunities for individuals that don't have those degrees to come into our organization, prove their skills, and we'll hire them for the abilities that they have and are able to offer into the organization. So a lot of great things. If you have additional kind of data points you want to put onto what skills-based hiring would be, but I felt like this was just a good baseline assumption, a baseline definition that was going to kind of set the standard for today's discussion. But definitely, please reach out, send if you have other things you want to add. Definitely on board with that. So now that we've figured out how organizations are going to hire through skills-based hiring, there are a couple types of skills, right? And the most prominent ones we hear are hard and soft skills, right? Hard skills are the things you're going to go out and you're going to get learn technical stuff, the software, the tools, the tricks, how to do cryptography, how to really go through logs and data and start to really notice trends and things that are coming out of it. So you can make educated decisions around, what things you should or shouldn't do within that organization. So definitely technical skills, and they're gained through kind of specific training, right? Training programs, certifications, they're measured that way, and sometimes do formal education, right? But an important part, especially in a career field like cybersecurity, where hard skills are really important and a part of the daily thing that you're going to do. On the flip of that, and probably the one that to me seems controversial, seems like a strange word to say around, the idea of skills. There's no controversy around it. But I think there's such a wide range of what somebody would define as a soft skill. And it's such a generationally specific concept for others that it's not going to be the same for everybody, right? So, and that's where I think leaning into this now is such an important part. For folks that are in their 50s and 60s, right, the idea of working remote and some of this stuff is crazy. They're used to working 50, 60 hours a week, and it's just a very different work environment. You go and you bring that same mindset to a millennial or maybe a Gen Zer, that's a crazy concept, this idea of 40 hours a week and no control over your time. You're doing what you're told all the time. So we have this huge fundamental disconnect. But at the core of all of it, right, is there is a set of skills. How to dress when you show up, how to, what being on time, being present, the kind of social norms and cues of the work environment. Don't say offensive things and inappropriate things that you come in to do. And that all seems pretty simple, but we're all raised in different ways and from different backgrounds. So establishing some form of common soft skills that are trainable and accessible and measurable are important, right? Both even for soft skills and for hard skills. So a really great way to get it. So, in order to go out and find those skills, there's lots of great ways, right? There are community college and four-year programs, and those are more of your traditional kind of pathway that we've all been told about, and all still a really, really good way to go out and get skills. It's not as fast as it could be. And I think over the last several years, we've noticed that higher education organizations are really taking a hit. Students that are getting younger are seeing the value less and less in college education and the experience that comes along with it. And there's much more attractive options with gig economy and all these other things that are out there. So it's really important now to start looking at other things there. But in the grand scheme, as of today, still over 50% of jobs in the country require some form of degree, right? So it's really impossible to just completely say, no, college isn't the way we're going to go. But what I'm saying is, I'm stomping my foot, is really it's time to start really looking, because I think that number of 50% will and should continue to drive down to be less. But there are careers, right? And I don't think anybody, myself included, wants to go have open heart surgery on somebody who doesn't have a medical degree, right? There are lots of functions and roles that do require these advanced technical skills that we all, I think, want them to go do. But it's fair to say that there's a lot of orgs and roles specifically in tech that you can go learn some other things. Another skill path is the idea of training and apprenticeship. That's where CyberUp and organizations like us come in, right? We're more of a non-traditional, a little quicker path that leads generally to certifications. A lot of us work out degree, college credit kind of attainment, right? All of our students have the ability to go and transfer and get WashU credits or Fontbonne credits, university. So there's a lot of great paths there, but still a newer concept, right? Boot camps have been around for a while, and I've met a lot of great folks that have gone and had a great career because of these things. But at the same time, it's still not as widely adopted. And there's a lot of debate around the degrees and certifications and those types of things amongst security leaders in the U.S. So both great options and still both great ways to get in. And the last one is really just, self-taught life experience, right? There are some people just intrinsically motivated to go out and learn these things and can come and translate those skills to an employer in an interview and really highlight how great you are. It didn't have to spend a dime in anything because you went out and found the resources, and they're all out there. For those that are really motivated, you can go out and find tools, tricks, resources, training, Not certifications, obviously, 'cause you got to pay for the test and those things. But for the most part, you can get everything you would need online pretty free or pretty close to free without having to spend a whole lot of money and get things that you would from others. And then last but not least, you've got the skills. You've figured out how you want to learn them. You've defined your soft skills and your hard skills, but then you really want to figure out how do you boost them, right? Boosting meaning I know what I can do, but how do I show others what I could do? So like ultimately I want to get a job, right? That's the important part of any of these skills is you want to get paid for the things that you have learned, and you want to be able to, support your life and the quality and lifestyle that you want within those. So, from skill boosters, and I'm going to focus a little on tech, right? Just because it's relevant to our subject, but internships and apprenticeships, they're different. I'm asking probably the number one question I'm asked most times is what is the biggest difference between an internship and an apprenticeship? My short, quick answer of this, and there's more parts to it if I'm being honest, but for the shortest way to do it, and I think it simplifies maybe the type of perspective the person that's in that role is coming in to do, is that internships, generally college students, are really trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up, right? So when they do an internship at a bank or another organization, what they're going to classes, they're learning about a topic that they don't necessarily know a whole lot about it. So when they're doing an internship, it's really for them to figure out if this is what I want to do when I grow up, right? So they're interviewing that organization just as much as you're interviewing them. And at the end of it, they may or may not really like to do that specific job, and that's why they picked an internship. Now, a lot of times there's a lot of government agencies like the National Security Agency that have incredibly robust internships. They're bringing in hundreds and they recruit, and give clearances and things like that. And there's a great opportunity there. But, not every organization has that capacity that they would be able to do. On the flip of that is the idea of apprenticeships. Similar idea, but, they're not limited in time. They're not necessarily limited in range and windows in which you could do it. And probably the biggest thing, if we turn it back to the human aspect, is that an apprentice, oftentimes, I can speak for us, most of ours are career transitioners. They've maybe done something for a period of time and wanted to get into something where they have more upward mobility, more opportunity to gain skills, and potentially earn more income. So it does change the demographic. Our average age is like mid-30s. So they're year-round. They aren't time-specific. And for the person, these are individuals that have made a commitment, that have gone out and got skills, and they know what they want to do. And they've chosen that apprenticeship for a reason. So the mindset's different, right? Their priority there is to make you happy to get a job and stay with you, not necessarily test you out, get a skill, and see if this is what I actually want to do or what I don't want to do. So a lot of small nuances, but there are a lot of some differences that go there. And then the other two really around skills boosters. And it's hard, right? I think the part I was talking to somebody last week about how do you show your work in cyber. Code is a little bit easier. I can make a portfolio in GitHub and show somebody my work, but it's really hard to show skills in cyber. So really the only ways to do it is through competitions. That's your CTFs, your hack the boxes, try hack me, some of those things that you can highlight skills and really show and build a small portfolio of things you're trying to do. And then I think test things that you want to figure out and areas you want to, kind of play around with. And then volunteering, right? What better way to learn the basics of what you're doing is continue to keep that front of mind for yourself as they go out and teach other people how to do it, whether that's a middle school student, a high school student, or college individual. There's a lot to be said about teaching others how to do things and really highlighting your skills and keeping your stuff brushed up. So pause there. Questions, concerns, hit me up. Definitely open to answer some of those things. But essentially from what I'm seeing here is we've created this perfect storm, right? So we've created all these incredible skills paths we just talked about. We've recognized as a country, and many corporations have recognized as a country that we have to get better at hiring and have to start really thinking things through differently. And so we've really created this, like what I think is this perfect storm, this idea we've created a perfect skills storm, and a focus on the cyber aspect. We've had I'm just thinking of headlines we've had, right? Cybersecurity skills crisis. There's a skills gap. There's a talent gap. There's all these different ideas of like, we're just short. We don't have enough people, skills, tools, resources to do all the things we do. And in reality, right, from that, we responded. Like most organizations do, you see a problem, and the first thing you generally do is you throw a big bag of cash at it and say, go, and you try to figure it out. And we did. We threw a lot of money at this, right? Trillions of dollars. The online training has become $1 trillion industry. Cybersecurity has become, we've seen the data, billions, almost trillions of dollars of industry, of kind of money that's spent. And it's going to continue to grow, as it should. And it's important, and it should grow. But has that really yielded the results that we'd hoped that it was going to yield? But we've created, lots of programs, lots of spend, a little bit of fear, right? Let's be honest. We've created a fearful environment that the bad guys or folks are going to come do things for us, and we're not going to be ready. So we got to do more stuff. But we've also added, I think, a greater sense of, awareness of all the things that are going. And I think things like this, where there are discussions having around skills-based and, a lot of talks around increasing diversity. So we've had a lot of positive outcomes that have, resulted in the last 8 to 10 years of this stuff. But we've also really created this perfect storm. And I want to say that, for us and for me specifically, it's not one single entity or person's fault, right? We've just really created this idea of this market of, oh my gosh, you person, right? So we'll start with the people. You person can go out here and make $100,000 a year in 12 weeks, 15 weeks, whatever it is, for the low cost of 10 grand. And this cert, you can go out and make $100,000. You and I, we all know that, that has it happened? Absolutely. Does it happen consistently? Maybe, but not nearly as much as the amount of programs and training partners we've added to the country. That for sure is definitely, we've created too much. The other side of it is, have we actually, minimized the tax? So people, there's a lot of frustrated individuals that have spent money, worked, networked, and done things they thought they were going to do, and what they were promised was this high-paying job with outcomes, and that hasn't necessarily helped. And so there's a lot of frustration, I think, for quite a few people out there. We're really trying to do that break in because they feel like they've done the things they needed to do but haven't got the results. So had higher salary and job expectation things that didn't meet. That leads to frustration and anger, which then, festers across, social media channels. So from a company standpoint, right, there's high expectations for them, not necessarily for pay, but they have a high expectation that the individual who went through training program is going to come in here and they're going to be day one ready to do anything that's asked of them. And here's what I'm going to tell you. There are 45, probably more job functions within cyber, and it's a huge and an insurmountable task for any of us to go out and create the absolutely perfect curriculum, both for technical and soft skills, or hard skills and soft skills, that's going to allow somebody to show up to your organization day one expert, right? It's impossible. It's never going to, maybe it happens. There are unicorns that are out there, but it's really, really hard. So, the high expectations for folks, for companies makes it really, really difficult. And then on the same line of that is really just the idea of pay discrepancies, right? So you heard me say a second ago that individuals were, expecting this $100,000, and companies like, there's no way I'm paying you $100,000 for entry level role, right? And so maybe at the peak of 2020 and the peak of COVID, that was happening, but we've seen over the last several months, if not 12 months, that we kind of grew a little bit too big and flew a little close to the sun. And so we probably needed to kind of right set, some of these offerings and really get back into to where it needed to be. So, there's a disconnect in pay discrepancies for those folks. And last but not least, the idea of skill paths, right? We're not isolated from this program by any means. So, we are in line with the high day one expectations, and again, high expectations for individuals. We have high expectations from our partners to create this elaborate set of skills for folks. It's really hard. So we've all been pretty broad, right? There's, baseline of skills, SEC plus, A plus, Net plus, whatever certification you want to align to, whatever degree program. But, we're all specifically kind of working in a broad skill set that's going to get somebody into an organization with a good little bit of tenacity, a little bit of grit, and a good personality and a baseline of skills. They can be a productive contributing member of that team pretty quickly. But it's really hard for all of us as skills paths to get as probably deep and specific as I think organizations would like us to do with some of the skills training and providing we are doing. And then last but not least, there's simply too many of us to choose from, right? Like I can't only imagine if I'm an individual and I'm trying to go out there and I really want to, find, and I've had so many conversations in the 8.5 years I've been here with folks like looking to break into this as a field. And man, there's so many options. Where do you go? How do I know? There's so many ways to pay for this between, I can give up future income. There's all these things. So like how do I find the right one for me that's going to make sure that I find the right skills path to get the job, right? That's, again, all comes down to jobs. And I promise you, we're getting to the point where we start talking about some of those specific jobs. But felt it very important to set a stage, right? So far, we've defined skills-based hiring. We've talked a little bit about the types of skills and ways to get skills. And then we kind of transition that to kind of the current setting that we have across I'm going to say the world, because it's not just isolated to the U.S., but the world, this idea around hiring, and then why is this so, I'm going to pause and think and ask a question of like, why is this actually important? Why does this matter? Why should we be focusing on these things? So let me jump into it, and I'll just kind of, give you my nickel's worth of why I think, this should be something companies should be looking at now. One, data shows it works. It is proven time and time again, but in a recent report put out by Deloitte, organizations that embrace skills-based hiring, much like we're advocating for, 52% of those are more likely to be innovative, 57% of those are more likely to be agile, 107%, big number, didn't know it could be more than 100%, but 107% are more likely to place talent effectively, an important statistic there, and 98% likely to retain high performers and have a reputation as a great place to grow and develop. So those are pretty big statistics, and the question is why, right? why are those such big numbers, and why does skills-based hiring actually lead to that, right? And so there's this idea in my brain, or just this thought in my brain is that, we focus so much on diversity, equity, inclusion, but there's so many variables to that, right? There's educational diversity, there's geographic diversity, there's, gender and obviously sexual orientation, those types of diversities. But like, there's all these different things that bring to an organization just different perspectives and thoughts that help that team get better. So that's where I feel confident that this data that's being shown is why it's doing it. And I think the loyalty piece, it's very in line with apprenticeship. If you give somebody an opportunity to work for your organization that somebody else isn't going to be able to give to them, they're going to generally be loyal to you, right? I'm not a no-brainer. It doesn't seem like rocket science, but if you help somebody and give them a leg up, they're going to stick with you, right? There's a loyalty there, and for some reason they're going to continue to drive, and that's not a bad thing. That's what you want out of employees, because you've made an investment in them, not just in time and energy, but in trust, and you've given them the confidence they need to be successful. So, of course, they're going to pay that back in tenfold, and when they pay it back, and then some and more to future workers that come in. And so, why now? Additionally, this is only going to get harder, right? That's what I kind of stopped my foot. It's not going to get easier. We're a few years away from having 5 generations, right? Now we've been talking 4, about to have 5 into the workforce here over the next few weeks. 5, right? So many different perspectives, just the life experiences from a boomer to a Gen A is so crazy to me to think about the differences, not just in the technology and the resources they had, but just the perspective and thinking behind it, right? So we have to really start to think through how are we going to bridge the gap between these 5 different generations, and we have to think of it differently. Colleges are failing. This isn't a dig on colleges. You guys are fantastic. But if you look around, students are just not choosing college as the first and only option as soon as they graduate high school. Enrollments are dropping. Students are dropping because the value of it is just going down, right? It's not a dig on it, and college education is important. But when you're spending $52,000 a year for a college education that you may only make $36,000 a year in a job, you're never going to recoup that investment. So we've got to get better, and colleges have got to get better at creating beyond kind of liberal arts education where you're learning things and that, but really getting into more technical education specifically for these types of jobs, because that's what's being asked for from employers. Companies are competing with the gig economy. I feel like I beat this to a horse all the time. I'm always talking about the gig economy, but it's an important thing it's impossible to ignore. If you can go out and make $50,000-$60,000 a year driving DoorDash and do it for 20 hours a week, you're going to go do that. Why do I want to go deal with an organization's stuff, other people and meetings and all this stuff, and I could go make just as much from a gig job as I would from that corporation? I don't have to deal with the boss or a manager. Like, why wouldn't I go do that? Right? So we have to, as employers, have to make that attractive to companies and individuals to want to bring them to us, to get them out of the gig economy and say, hey, gig economy is great. Go do it on your own. Come work for us Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or whatever hours you want to set, and go do it. And that's a great transition to the last one here. Is the idea of remote work. It's getting harder. We're seeing, time and time again that entry-level remote work is just getting harder and harder to come by. But people are accustomed to working remote now. People don't want to go into offices. So, people are making job choices and career choices based off of remote work. And so if we don't make it as an option, then it's going to get harder to recruit people coming into our organization. So last piece of the disadvantages, we're going to jump into just the specifics of kind of what you should do. We're going to go really high level because we're getting close to time. So we're going to jump into it, and we'll probably have a follow-up kind of conversation with this, but I felt really important just to lay the groundwork, hence the skills-based 101. And then last but not least, the advantages of this skills-based hiring. So one, it does increase your quality of hire. I know that's probably going to sound a little weird, because you're not getting somebody from Harvard or from a college degree, but at the end of the day, you have generally found a tool, you've tested their skills, and you have a known commodity based off what you're hiring them for, and you've been able to increase the quality of that because of the things and systems you've put in place. It expands your talent pool, not just in people, but it expands your talent pool of where you're looking, right? Finding organizations like CyberUp or other organizations that would be non-traditional, it expands your center of influence and where you're finding people, and oftentimes the makeup of the recruits in which you're bringing onto your organization. It does reduce bias and increases the talent pipeline diversity. Just because you're looking in different places and you're going to find different people. It's weird, right? It's kind of crazy how that happens to look. I've noticed a trend that a lot of organizations have really wanted to increase their diversity, and they've gone to historically black colleges and universities. It's probably a solid place to start if you're looking to go to universities, and a great opportunity for these organizations to grow. And they've thrived over the last several years, and I hope they continue to do so. As it will help organizations like ours to bring additional diversity candidates into their organization. So, and then, we're improving employer retention engagement, and we're producing productivity and profitability. So those are more high level kind of things, but also important. If I'm an organization, a company, I want to make money. Obviously, it's why I'm there. But if I can also provide a good work experience for folks that work for me along the way, then I'm going to be able to do that. All right. So how do we build it? Right there. This is where the rubber meets the road, and we're at the kind of piece of the time, the moment in which we're going to go into it. But I think I'm going to have to say, I'm going to pull time out, and we're going to have that discussion another time. But, I really wanted to spend today to set the stage. What is skill? What are skills? What is skills-based hiring? And then what can I today, right? If I was to challenge everybody to go look at the next 15 to 20 or 30 days, or the next, month or so, if this is something you're interested in, my piece of advice is really take a step back, right? Look at, put yourself over the top of the organization, broadly look at hiring practices, look across the board, okay? We have done for the past 10 years, right? And I'm going to use St. Louis as an example, just because there's colleges, universities. For the past 10 years, we have gone to this college, and this college. And we have good data that shows that we have yielded X, Y, Z. It might be a 60% retention. We could show our data around diversity from those partners. And if it's not hitting what we hope to do, right? I don't know. The definition of being crazy is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping different results. If you're not happy with the things you're finding within, the data you're doing from recruitment, let's look somewhere differently, right? Let's find different partners. Let's expand our center of influence. Come reach out to us. I'm obviously partial to CyberUp, but I'm friends with lots of organizations. We can help you find folks. So we have to think differently, and in closing, it's important now more than ever that we really need to start focusing on this idea and transitioning away from hiring as we've always known it, college recruiting. Again, you will never hear me say to stop completely doing those things. What I'm going to continue to do is to just assess the impact and see if it's meeting the things that you hope it's going to do, and if it isn't, let's look at something else and find a different way in which we could, hit the goals and what we are wanting to set and accomplish for one another. So I'm gonna jump back into this. I know I've got the next 4 episodes kind of lined up already, but we might push this back. And if you reach out to me and you want to take it a step further, please do. We're working on an internal white paper right now that kind of put this out for everybody and really give a how-to guide around incorporating a skills-based hiring program. So I'm excited to help others to really lean into this. I hope others jump in or equally as excited to learn more about it, because I think it's only going to really help us as we move into the 2025 and beyond. So as always, I'm sorry you had to listen to me drone on for 30 hours. Hopefully, it was good content and enjoyable around skills-based hiring, but just know that I truly appreciate the support for the show, for CyberUp, for me personally, right? That's been great. And look forward to continuing to have more and more discussions around this over the next several months. Hey, thank you so much, and tune in next week. Have a great day.